Welcome back to the Dead by Daylight Perk Ideas series, where I take your guys' awesome ideas from the comment section below and talk about them in upcoming videos. I know you guys have been waiting so patiently for the next part of the series, and it has finally arrived. And if you want me to continue the series, please let me know by dropping a like down below and subscribing if you're new. Also, come join my Discord server. Anyway guys, let's get right into the perk ideas. We have a lot of hex perks on this list, just letting you know. And the first hex perk is called Hex Painstalker. And this is a killer perk. Anytime a generator's progression is above 80%, the entity blocks all windows and pallets within a 16-meter radius of that generator until it's completed or until it is regressed below the threshold. So basically, if there's any generator on the map that is progressed between 80 and 100%, all the pallets and windows near this generator will become blocked. So it's essentially making every single generator really dangerous for the last 20% of its completion. I think this is a really good perk to build up pressure if you need it, because it makes survivors question whether or not they should commit to a gen or go to a safer spot. Also, it can synergize really well with other perks such as Tinkerer or even regression perks like Pop Goes the Weasel. Like, let me put you into a situation. You run this perk on a Leatherface, right? If there's only one survivor working on a generator and it's at 90%, that survivor won't have enough time to complete the generator before you're able to pull up your chainsaw and kill them. So they'll likely want to leave the generator early to get to a safe space because they don't have access to any of those safe spaces nearby, which will give you enough time to pop the gen. However, this perk is also interesting because the killer has to decide whether or not they want to start regressing the gen and lose the effect of the windows and pallets getting blocked, or if they should keep the gen above 80% progression and be extremely strong in that area. I wanted to make this a hex perk because I don't know how strong this would be in practice, but if it's too weak, it could possibly be even changed to a non-hex perk. Okay, the next perk on our list is called Intertwined Light, and this is a survivor perk. It's also a very unique survivor perk as well. At the start of a trial, a random non-blocked generator's aura is revealed to you. Starting to work on a different generator activates Intertwined Light, making these two generators quote-unquote intertwined. Intertwined generators gain these effects. When repairing one of these two generators, the other generator's aura is revealed to all survivors. If both generators are being worked on simultaneously, each generator gains a 10% increased repair speed. However, if a killer kicks one of these gens, both gens begin regressing, and if a survivor is working on the other gen while it gets kicked, they receive a difficult skill check and their aura is revealed to the killer for 5 seconds. I think this is a super interesting perk that kind of takes the concept of Blood Pact and puts it into generators instead of people. And the aura reading and the difficult skill check of this perk may allow perceptive killers to realize that the survivors have this perk on. I think this is a super unique repair speed perk that you actually have to earn rather than it just being given to you like prove thyself. There is a check and balance for this perk where it only activates on those two generators at the start of the trial. So after you complete those two generators, Intertwined Light will deactivate. Okay, the next perk on our list is called Hex Isolation, and obviously this is a killer perk. Whenever a survivor begins working on a generator, all other sides of that generator become blocked by the entity until this totem gets cleansed. This hex totem also does not appear until 60 seconds into the trial. So basically, if you're not really understanding the concept of this perk, if there's a gen that can be worked on by 4 different survivors, if one survivor touches it, the 3 other sides of that generator become blocked by the entity, so only one person can work on that gen. I think this is a really interesting concept for a hex perk because it basically limits each gen to only be worked on by one survivor, and this can be a direct counter to gen rushing with toolboxes or using prove thyself and stuff like that. And I think it'd be a really good passive slowdown as a hex perk that's almost like a mini corrupt intervention that lasts until the perk ends. Okay, the next perk on our list is called Foresee, and this is a survivor perk. While in the terror radius of the killer, you can see the auras of the closest 3 other survivors. So at tier 3 of this perk, you can see every single survivor. During this time, all other survivors can see your aura as well. However, this perk does not remain active if you are in chase. This perk would be really good for solo queue because you're able to see if a survivor is being chased and they're coming towards your gen. So like if a survivor is coming to your gen and they're being chased, they will be able to see your aura working on the gen, so they may decide to not go towards that gen with the killer. But if they do, you'll be able to see their aura and know that the killer is coming from that direction. I just think this is a really good information tool that allows you to understand what every survivor is doing in the match, and would be so incredibly useful for solo queue because there's no communication. It's kind of like the effect of Kindred, but you don't see the killer, and it only happens when the killer is near you. I absolutely love this perk, and if I'm playing solo queue, I would use it all the time. Okay, the next perk is also a hex perk, and this is called Hex Instigation, which is of course a killer perk. After hooking one survivor, all currently progressed generators get blocked by the entity, and a hex is applied to any dull totem on the map. These generators are blocked until the hex totem is cleansed, and this perk can only activate once per trial. So basically how this perk works is once you down the first survivor of the match, any gens that the other survivors are working on get blocked until this hex totem is cleansed. So this is another form of gen slowdown that's a little more unique than something like Corrupt Intervention, and it really helps you in the early game when you have no idea where survivors are. There's so many gens that can be completed, and every survivor has all of their resources available, such as toolboxes or pallets, so it just gives you an early game buff that's almost like an activatable Corrupt Intervention for any gen that's being worked on. I was originally going to make this perk not a hex perk and have it deactivate when the survivors complete another generator, but then I realized if you pair that with Corrupt Intervention and 3 survivors are working on 3 separate gens, there would only be 1 generator left in the trial, and the killer could literally just camp that generator and all other gens would be blocked, and it'd be really boring for the survivors to just wait out Corrupt Intervention. So I did want to make it a hex perk so that the survivors still have to go out of their way to cleanse these totems, but since survivors cleanse hex perks within like the first 30 seconds of the match, I wanted it to only activate once you actually got the down, so it would hopefully prevent this problem of it getting cleansed so early. Okay, moving on to the next perk. This is called Boon Purify, and this is of course a survivor perk, and this is kind of going along with the boon trend where they just take the concepts of previous perks and make them stronger. So while in the boon totem's radius, all status effects recover 30% faster. So this is just boon vigil, and it would stack with vigil as well. Of course, these values can be nerfed or buffed depending on the strength of this perk, but I think the main purpose for this would be to get your exhaustion back really fast if you're in the boon's radius. So for example, if you run this perk with Circle of Healing, since the boon effects apply to the same totem, you could go into the Circle of Healing and heal yourself while also recovering from your status effects 30% faster, so you'll probably have your exhaustion ready by the time you're finished healing. I think recovering from exhaustion faster isn't that big of a deal if you're confined to the boon totem's radius, so I don't think this would be too overpowered. Okay, the next perk is called Death Awaits, and this is a killer perk. When the last generator is completed, both exit gates immediately open, starting the endgame collapse. Death Awaits calls upon the entity to block the exits for all survivors for 45 seconds. So this is an endgame perk that puts a lot of pressure on the survivors. Although it helps them because it opens both gates immediately, it still blocks the exits for 45 seconds, which is almost half of the endgame collapse timer. So this will really emphasize the ticking clock of the endgame, while also being able to pair it with other endgame perks such as Noed or such as Blood Warden. I feel like this is just a really cool idea because I've always wanted a perk that utilizes the endgame collapse a little bit more. Like, the endgame collapse is such a good idea for building pressure and forcing the survivors to do their objectives quickly, so I really wanted a perk that starts that instantly. But since the exit gates are opening, which is obviously really good for survivors, I still wanted that effect to keep the survivors from escaping, so you can actually utilize this perk a little bit. Okay, the next perk on our list is called Alleviated Escape, and this is a survivor perk. When you are unhooked, Alleviated Escape activates for 60 seconds. While active, you recover from all status effects twice as fast, and you can recover from exhaustion while running. However, this perk deactivates if you interact with any progressive objectives, just like how it does for Decisive Strike. So this is essentially an anti-tunnel perk that allows you to get your exhaustion back really quickly, even if you're still being chased after getting unhooked. So for example, if you have Dead Hard and you're getting tunneled, you can use your Dead Hard, but have it recover in 20 seconds, even if you're sprinting, and be able to get it again, just so that it makes it harder for the killers to tunnel you. I think this is a very strong effect. Like, obviously being able to recover from exhaustion while running is super strong, but of course this perk deactivates just like Decisive Strike if you do practically anything besides be chased, so that balances it out a little bit. Okay, the next perk on our list is called Hex Pain Escalation, and this is a killer perk. When the exit gates are powered, you gain a token every 5 seconds as long as you are 16 meters away from a hooked survivor. As you continue to gain tokens, you gain the following effects until the hex totem is cleansed. At 5 tokens, survivors suffer from the exhausted status effect. At 10 tokens, survivors suffer from a 10% hindered status effect, meaning they'll run 10% slower. At 15 tokens, all survivors' auras are revealed to you, and at 20 tokens, the exits get blocked by the entity. So essentially, every 25 seconds after the last gen is completed, you gain a stacking effect until this hex is cleansed. I think this is a really cool idea for an endgame perk that doesn't just give you an immediate power boost like Noed does, but kind of builds it up into something super strong. Like, if survivors never find the totem, the exit gates will be blocked indefinitely until they do so. However, there is a flaw in this perk that I wanted to talk about, where the killer can just body block the totem. I have 2 solutions to address this problem. My first idea is once you get to the 20 tokens where the exit gates get blocked, the hex totem splits into 2 hex totems, so even if you're camping one, they can still cleanse the other one. I like that idea more, but my other idea is to just not reveal the aura of the hex totem to the killer itself, so so that they wouldn't be able to find this totem. Let me know if you guys have any other solutions for addressing this issue down below. Okay, the final perk idea on this list is called Charitable Touch, and this is a survivor perk. You gain a 30% increased healing speed for 45 seconds after completing any of the following actions: opening a chest, opening an exit gate, completing a generator, cleansing a totem, or being healed. A lot of people will prioritize completing an objective before healing, and this would just help that strategy because, for example, if you have 2 people injured, you can work on a generator and complete it before healing and then start healing afterwards to get a 30% increase to that speed. So it's not a totally huge effect, but it can stack with other things such as botany knowledge or circle of healing to make it even better. So it's kind of like the idea of we'll make it, but for other objectives as well. If you guys made it through the entire video, go in the comments and put a banana emoji down below, as well as any perk ideas that you may have. If we get to 5,000 likes on this video, I will make another one. Anyway, guys, that's about all I have for you today, so I will see you all in the next one. Peace!